News Talk weather.
Thanks to Des Kelly Interiors, the wood floor experts. Supplying and fitting your new wood floor.
A few showers early tonight, but soon drying out with clear spells and winds becoming light. Cold in many places though, with a sharp frost and some icy patches. Lowest temperatures of between -1 and +2 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the new and improved Boyle Sports Bet Builder. Now with 44 markets to choose from on every match.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then.
What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Welcome to the Football Show. It is Nathan and Dan in studio this evening. Live Europa League ongoing. Not going to be as exciting as the last couple of nights.
You say that now.
Anything could happen.
It's 51 minutes gone in Chelsea, Dynamo Kiev. Only 51 minutes is like, that's what, 38 plus minutes where a lot of stuff could happen.
Good on-air maths there, Dan. I
I
could see you panicking.
Like 41, 31, 38. Yeah, carried a one. Anyway, I think it's probably unlikely.
Chelsea leading Dynamo Kiev by a goal to nil. Do you call them Dynamo or Dynamo?
I think I call him Dynamo. I actually don't know. It's one of those ones where
Great question.
I've been there. I've been in the stadium, where they used to play, and they played draw at that time. I think Dynamo. Yeah, probably Dynamo, I'd say.
Okay, we'll go with Dynamo for tonight. Pedro scored after 17 minutes, a brilliant goal for Chelsea. One of those real intricate passing moves from about 25 yards out, load little 1-2s, and a nice finish from Pedro as well, who's looked very, very good. Strange player, Pedro. Like, he's done it all. He's won absolutely everything you can win. And you watch him at times, and like, his control is probably as good as anybody in the Premier League, his close control. And you'd still never look at him and go, not even first choice at Chelsea.
He's just always good enough to be there, good enough to be at the top clubs without being deemed irreplaceable or sort of...
Not a great player. A good player, not a great player.
He's a very, See, sometimes you have these guys who are very good. Would Pedro go to a smaller club, say, would he go to Fulham or Watford or someone, but would he go there and dominate?
Absolutely not.
Player? So you have these players sometimes that are very effective around the top club, but when they drop down to a lesser, like, they don't necessarily, like Ji-Sung Park with the QPR, and think of guys.
He needs to play for a team that are going to have 65% possession in most games.
That's possibly it, yeah. But
just put in there again, and
I'd say he's happy though.
Side.
I'd say he's fairly happy.
I was it you who was on? Were you here Tuesday night or Monday night? And people were talking about Gareth Bale, and Joe was talking about whether he had a great with Pat Nevin. Talking about his career, and did he have a good career or a great career? And you're kind of looking at Gareth Bale going, if Gareth Bale didn't have a great career,
who did?
Who did have a great career?
Yeah.
Like from what he did at club level, winning Champions League, scoring one of the greatest Champions League final goals of all time, what he's done with Wales, he's had a bloody great career.
Oh yeah, in 20 years' time, I think we'll look back at the Gareth Bale showreel. I think we'll probably be more likely to think great career. I don't know. What do we think when we look back at Michael Owen's career now? Do you think great career, or do you think should have been better career?
But Gareth Bale's achieved a lot more in his career.
He has, but I guess he has. No, he definitely has. Although Michael Owen was still European Footballer of the Year, wasn't he?
I mean, that is true.
That's still pretty cool. But because of how things petered away a small bit, you should think he had a great career, but there's almost a bit of an asterisk with it, a small bit,
because it stopped at 26.
It could have been better. I remember he was in here with Joe at one point, wasn't he, talking honestly about...
That's never the sign of a great career. I totally understand what you're saying.
When he was sitting down pretty introspective with Malloy, that's when things are bad.
Some people go on Parkinson.
Yeah. But I suppose, I think there'll be enough highlights. I mean, he's scored a key goal in the Champions League final, and when he walks around Wales, he's going to be
when he walks around Celtic Manor, as seems is what he will spend his next 30 years doing.
Or just having coffee with his mates in Cardiff or whatever, I suppose he'd want to get to a World Cup at Wales though, wouldn't he? That's probably one thing he needs to tick off the list.
Oh yeah, for true greatness.
After we shafted him the last time when he wasn't even able to play.
53106 is the text number. We've Philippe Auclair coming up in about 15 minutes. Going to pick through the pieces of another Paris Saint-Germain Champions League collapse. The latest scores then: Chelsea 1-0 up against Dinamo Kiev. Napoli are 2-0 up at home against Salzburg. Valencia 2-0 up at home against Krasnodar. Earlier, Arsenal beaten 3-1 away against Rennes. We'll ask Philippe about that as well, and just how big a shock that is, because it was 3-1. It could easily have been 4 or 5, certainly from what we saw of it in the second half. Arsenal were also reduced to 10 men in that game. They actually took the lead. Alex Iwobi scored after just 4 minutes. Then Socrates was sent off on 41. From the resulting free kick, it came back off the wall and it was a brilliant volley smashed in past Petr Cech. 1-1, and then a OG from Nacho Monreal, and Ismaila Sarr scored the third with 2 minutes to go. So Arsenal have a mountain to climb if they are to stay in the Europa League. Very, very differing weeks for Manchester United and Arsenal ahead of their meeting at the Emirates. We're going to have that live for you on Sundays off the ball. Elsewhere, Sevilla 2-2 draw at home against Slavia Prague. Villarreal won 3-1 away at Zenit St. Petersburg. Finished scoreless between Eintracht Frankfurt and Inter Milan, while Dinamo Zagreb were 1-0 winners against Benfica. Right, so Mick McCarthy, he was in town again today, this time to finally pick his first squad. Sort of pick.
He wasn't really finally picking his first squad.
Finally, he was letting us the opposite of finally.
He was letting us know the list of players from which the first squad will be picked.
So there's 38?
Just the 38. And
is that a record? Did Martin O'Neill ever go 38?
We definitely had 40 at one point. I think Trapp, for his first squad back in 2008, might have named 40 something in the list. Again, some of them never made it.
We're going to get to the stage, and this may have already happened, but it'd be a great quiz question in the years to come. Name the player who was selected in the Republic of Ireland squad but has never set foot in the Republic of Ireland. I don't know who that is, but it's probably happened.
Oh, I'd say it's getting there. It's definitely getting there. I'm trying to think, well, has Joey Lapierre ever been in Ireland?
It's great. We should bring him over for a roadshow.
But then
short interview, but
yeah, he's got a story to tell. But I mean, all his action happened in the States. There you go.
These are the big questions.
But I mean, I think Callum Robinson wasn't even in the 38, and then it was pointed out, well, actually, you never know, he could be fit as well. So hey, why not?
If he plays, he's just back training Callum Robinson after a few months out. So if
he was in Kenny Cunningham starting 11. Never mind his starting 38. Well. So yeah, it's going to be cut to 23.
So speaking of players and people who haven't spent too much time on Irish soil, Patrick Bamford was among the topics of conversation. Let's hear from Mick McCarthy.
Mick, we spoke to John O'Shea, former captain there, on Monday, and he said that Bamford would be a welcome addition to the squad. But he said that after that, the chasing of players has to stop. You know, players who might qualify through the so-called granny rule.
I'll wait till he's sat in this chair, shall we? I love that one. That's good.
Do you think it does have to stop? Or?
It's amazing how people's opinions as a player or an ex-player suddenly changes when you sat in the hot seat. So I won't answer it. We'll wait and see.
Just on the players that...
I mean, England have done it, haven't they? So I will answer. England have done it. They've chased one of our better ones. And they've took him. So it's not only us that's doing it. I think it's my job here to have the best team possible of players that qualify, and that's what I'll continue to do.
Do you think maybe if somebody like that comes into the squad and some of the players who, are Irish born and qualified, that it might cause a bit of disruption in the dressing room? Would that be a concern at all?
Not at all. No, because I've been in the dressing room when it's happened, if you remember. I've actually walked into the dressing room and, took somebody's place who was born in Ireland or played. And did it cause any consternation or any upset? I don't know. Not with me. I played in 88, 19. Had a pretty good time, to be quite honest. And a lot of other guys who were in that squad weren't born and bred in Ireland, and I've never seen any trouble with it at all.
Just on some of the players that you mentioned just before there who are playing below the second tier in English football, do you think they're players who are capable of playing at a higher level, or is it just a case where Ireland have to accept now that we maybe have to recruit a lower standard of player?
I think that's a little bit unfair anyway, in your quote as a lower standard of player. I'm talking about players who are playing at their level and they're scoring goals, and I don't think that can be easily dismissed, to be quite honest with you. And both of them, if we're talking about James Collins and Podrick Hammond, have had good seasons. And I think that should be recognised in the fact that I've called them up, as opposed to sort of insulting them, which I'm not going to do.
Yeah, no, that's what I just want to know if you think they're capable of playing at a higher level. Maybe this could help them.
I think that if you've got somebody in a rich vein of form, goal scorers, you may just require that at some stage, and putting somebody on who's not scored 20 goals a season, I'd soon have somebody, if I know a chance falls to him, he might just put it in the net, and that's what I'm looking at. And do you know what? Who knows? We've seen. I bet you didn't have your money on Podrick Hammond scoring 2, did you, in the games he's played, in the 2 teams he played against?
I did, but
could you show me that betting slip?
Just to finish then as well, because obviously we're going to be hosting games here, Mick, do you think, is there more pressure on you now to qualify in this tournament?
I don't think there can be any more pressure put on, is there, than I put on myself, to be quite honest, in terms of doing it. But there'll be a great expectancy now that we've got games here. And yeah, of course it does add a little bit to it, because it'll be a lot better tournament if we're in it.
Yeah, certainly would. There's Mick McCarthy talking down at the 3 headquarters today at the release of his extended squad, a 38-man squad. So just on the Patrick Bamford, Nathan Redmond situation, general feeling is that Patrick Bamford wants to play, and if they can finally meet up, I still can't fully understand how they can't. Mick McCarthy can't just say, I'm going to fly over to Leeds tomorrow. Can you spare 20 minutes?
Wouldn't even have to fly over to Leeds, because
well, exactly. You can drive up to Leeds. It's probably only
Costa or whatever.
20 minutes away.
Like, yeah, where's the nearest sort of? You know, England is full of sort of
Costa coffees,
Frankie and Benny's and Costas and whatever.
Wetherspoons.
Yeah, there's all those sort of
we could
samey sort of shopping centre and industrial parks and stuff. So like, there's no shortage of them to go and meet it. So yeah, it's a bit odd, like, because I mean, McCarthy seemed. I think last week it was calculated enough to let it be known publicly he was a bit miffed by Bamford not returning his messages, or not. I think what was the line last week? I've been trying my damnedest. He knows that. So it's one of these things where Bamford just had been seeing his messages but hadn't got around to responding, and clearly he has now got around to responding. So
Mick texted him after he scored twice for Leeds on Friday night.
Yeah,
and Bamford responded.
Got him when he was in good form, He just got him when he was vulnerable. But
is Mick WhatsApping him and then sitting there going, "Oh, he's typing."
Yeah. Pat, like you stalking Declan Rice that time.
How can people be typing for 20 minutes and not respond?
Typing, and then typing, and then it goes back online. Typing on. It's like, is he actually typing at all, or was it just a mistake? But it does. I mean, time is of the essence here, because he clearly wants to have him in for the summer. So I suppose on one hand, he's speaking positively about the options that are there, and on the other hand, he's very keen to get Bamford on board as soon as possible. And the old paperwork seems to run a bit quicker these days with FIFA, so there is a chance of getting him in there in time for June. So
Nathan Redmond, has been no movement at all.
Well, he hasn't even got to having a discussion with Redmond himself, so that all seems to be going through the agent. So I think it's fair to say Redmond is very much keeping his options open.
Mick's general demeanour today, it was sort of, he's in that cycle that most Ireland managers go through, where there's this long build-up, and he has done several, probably half a dozen press briefings, and the same questions are being asked again and again.
I'd say borderline bored would have been his move.
As I told you last week, nothing has changed. So let's look at the 38-man squad then that Mick McCarthy has selected. The main storylines, there's the new players, and then there's the old returning players, I guess, are the two stories. So you look at the 5 goalkeepers: Caoimhín Kelleher, Liverpool; Kieran O'Hara, Manchester United; Mark Travers, Bournemouth. A couple of them are out on loan, but our young goalkeepers, I think both Kelleher and Travers are going to go in with the under-21s, but are in the squad at least. Then of the defenders, Jimmy Dunn is the only real new arrival.
Yeah, who was actually named in one of the long lists before, but then never actually made it there. Willian has just scored a terrific free kick, by the way, for Chelsea to go 2-0 up. But Jimmy Dunn's been on one of these, so he didn't count as a first call today, because this has been hung over him before. So yeah, that would be an interesting one. Stephen Ward returning, who hasn't been in an Ireland squad since WhatsApp Gate. So I'm sure he'll be very happy to address that whenever he gets the chance to do it. Yeah, Alan Judge in midfield. I mean, he has been around recent squads, but McCarthy likes him. He's gone to watch him play for Ipswich a few times, so he might actually make the final cut this time. And then, yeah, the strikers are the really interesting ones, I suppose. The headline grabbers. I mean, David McGoldrick, one who definitely will be in the final squad. I think he said that before, so he doesn't have to worry about making the cut. The question is James Collins and Pádraig Amond. Both doing very well. Collins League One with Luton, Amond Newport, but is really there for his FA Cup performances. You still would think it might be difficult for both of them to get into the final squad, just with the options that are there. I mean, we have...
one of the more interesting parts of it was that Mick McCarthy said it's going to be a 23-man squad and was very definite on that, when he didn't really need to be, because generally for these double headers, they'll bring together 26, 27 players. Now, you can only name 23 in your match day squad, and you have to leave 4 guys who don't get to even tog out. But generally, you would try and bring a few more, because if somebody gets injured the day before, you'd...
Well, this is it. I mean, I suppose I forgot to mention there James McCarthy and Glenn Whelan obviously would be two. Now, James McCarthy is someone who hasn't played at all. So do you bring him in? Like, there would have been a thing before where you would bring him in to have a look. That's what O'Neill probably would have done. In fact, there was probably war with Everton around that topic at times. But I got the sense from McCarthy today, I don't know if he's going to bring... If McCarthy's going to get in at all. Even Whelan and McGeady, is another one who's back. I'm still not 100% sold on them being in the 23 either, I have to say. But this is a way of saying, you're in my thoughts. You're in my wider squad. I mean, why does he name the 38, by the way, which people would ask? He would have to give notice to the clubs who he might call players up from. Like, he could name 23 and then have 15 on standby, and the 15 on standby he would have to notify the clubs. You actually have to, by law, let the clubs know that someone is in your thoughts, so that otherwise they could in theory refuse to release them. So that's why this happens. Just in recent years, the FAI have decided to name them all.
Well, it's another opportunity to sit down the manager in front of the media and have the sponsorship hoarding.
Well, you have a squad announcement. You are meant to have a squad. I mean, England will have a squad announcement, I assume, this week at some stage or next week, where they will...
No interest.
Yeah, no interest at all. But they will just name their final squad. But behind that, there'll be 5 or 6 on standby. Their clubs will still have been told, whereas we just don't do it that way. But that's by the by. I hope he sort of sticks to it in a way, because I think it actually makes it interesting to see what he's really thinking in terms of picking 23.
I was looking at, because it's such a big list, I was looking with Enda earlier on what the final 23 might be and some of the names who might be left out. And here's sort of, again, we're 2 weeks away or 10 days away. Some of these players have to play 3 times, so there could easily be injuries. Here's what I'm looking at for players. He said he's going to bring 3 goalkeepers. Kieran O'Hara is probably the senior of Keller. So Travers and Kelleher will stay with the under-21s. Jimmy Dunn, Derek Williams and Stephen Ward to drop out. Again, Stephen Ward, like James McCarthy, Stephen Ward's not playing any football. He's been in and around the Burnley squad, but again, hasn't started the game in a long time.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. I didn't, Kieran Clark is obviously out through injury as well, so I was trying to have a bash at this the other day, and I wondered would Richard Keogh be vulnerable, but I think with Clark being out, I think 4 centre halves, you would think Keogh, Egan, Duffy, Kevin Long, and then fullbacks. Yeah, I think he does rate end to Stephen. So Ward, it's by no means guaranteed that he travels.
Midfield, then you're looking potentially at the likes of, again, McCarthy might be the main story out of this. That you would assume if he's in the 38, he'll have to be in the squad. But it was pretty clear from Mick McCarthy he probably not happy that he didn't leave Everton in the window, even though I think it wasn't James McCarthy's fault in the end. But he's not getting any football. Sean Williams, David Myler's not playing much football.
Well, Myler's on loan at Coventry. I can't see him making the final cut.
So again, if you're taking 15 names out, you are going to lose a lot of... It's hard to see a squad without Brady, O'Dowd and McLean. He spoke positively today about Hourihane. Arthur Brown are playing at levels. Again, as you say, Alan Judge is somebody he likes. Who are you leaving out? Is it Judge or McGeady?
You have Aidan McGeady in. I'm not so sure. I wouldn't be so sure that McGeady will be in the final 23. But again, I mean, that's a marginal one. Even McGeady and Alan Judge. Yeah, I can see Darrell Horgan, probably unfortunately for him, missing out, I think. And then striker-wise, you've got Shane Long, Sean Maguire, Ronan Curtis and David McGoldrick. Yeah, I think Collins might have a shout. I think Collins, they've...
Ahead of one of them or... as an additional...
Yeah, maybe it could be no McGeady or Judge and you have a 5th striker there, because Curtis really... I know Curtis is listed as a striker, but Curtis is almost... I think Curtis could play as a left-sided attacking midfielder.
Yeah.
I think that's where he could be. In fact, he's ended up playing there more for Portsmouth, really, over time. So your strikers could be Long, Maguire, because McGoldrick's more of a number 10 as well, really. So it could be Long, Maguire, Collins, and then McGoldrick and Curtis, potentially, as a 5.
Mick was sort of stopped in his tracks at one stage when he was explaining his thoughts, and he said 3 goalkeepers, and he was about to explain.
Someone interrupted him.
And somebody interrupted.
But he broadcast media,
This can't be
There's
helped.
a story coming.
Sorry, Mick. Our voice is what we've come here for, not your bloody answers. Let's get on with it. I suspect he was going to finish that with 5 strikers, which is what he would traditionally have picked when he had a vast array of strikers, that he is a sort of set in stone. Here's what I do: 8 defenders, 7 midfielders, 5 strikers, 3 goalkeepers. That's how I'll base my squad, and I'll work it from there.
How many have you got there?
That was 23. I worked it out as I was going along.
Oh, yeah.
8 defenders, 7 midfielders, 5 strikers, 3 goalkeepers.
Midfielders doesn't seem like enough, though.
7 defenders, 8 midfielders.
Yeah, I wonder.
One or the other.
Could he lose a defender? He might,
And there might be injuries as well. Glenn Whelan's back in the squad, but Wes, lads. Wes, he's playing championship football fairly regularly.
Well,
McCarthy out. He says Paulie Gore.
He did try Darren Murphy as well too, who was sort of said no.
Grand, thanks.
But someone made a point to me today, like the age that some of the players will be when the Euro 2020 itself comes round as well. That. In fairness, Glenn Whelan is still going strong at Villa. I mean, he had that delicious assist for Jack Grealish's goal the other day. But I don't know. I mean, Whelan never retired from international football, and I guess if you look at Mick's first stint as Ireland manager, Houghton was still going. He got Cascarino to keep going for another campaign. I think he valued the experience of characters around the place at that time, and maybe he's retained that philosophy, and he wants to have their presence around the place. But it wasn't in his squad to get the pulses racing, really. There was no sense of here's the bright young stars coming through. There's guys who are having great seasons, and it's great personal stories. And it's
Richie Towell unlucky?
I think he's probably one, yeah. Towell is one. Darragh Lenihan, I think, has been injured in recent weeks. Blackburn. Robinson obviously is on the way back. I think Towell's probably, in terms of a championship regular, probably a bit harshly treated. But then I suppose, in that central positions, central midfielders who can get 40.
If you're leaving out
Brown, Horan, he could have been on the long list, but he probably wouldn't have made the final squad.
There's
anyway.
a longer list.
He was on the 60.
God.
He's on the 63.
Wow,
Yeah.
lads, you're either qualified for Ireland or you're not qualified. There is no half qualified, is there? Asked Brian. Why would you ask that, Brian? Why would you try and start us off on this again? We've moved on.
You can be qualified, but are you committed? You can be committed or half committed.
You can be committed and not actually qualified. You can not have your You can be committed, qualified, but not have your international clearance.
Oh, that's the other one. That is the that's the no man's land.
Tell you, we've had some interesting conversations this evening.
Oh, listen, this has been some
classic.
good stuff.
It's been classic stuff. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to try and raise the quality levels and get Philippe Auclair on.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the new and improved Boyle Sports Bet Builder. Now with 44 markets to choose from on every match.
Next week on News Talk, we're packing up the entire station and hitting the road to explore Northern Ireland.
We'll be broadcasting live from a number of locations across the country and giving you a glimpse of all that's on offer.
From following in the footsteps of your favourite characters at some of the most stunning Game of Thrones locations,
to exploring the hidden islands steeped in folklore on Lough Erne,
and indulging in 5-star treatments in the finest hotels and restaurants in Belfast City. You okay over there, Ivan?
This is the life.
We'll also have wonderful weekend breaks to give away every day, so you can do some exploration of your own.
It's all with thanks to Discover Northern Ireland. Say hello to more
on News Talk.
The best prices in Ireland have just gotten better at the Harvey Norman one-day flash sale. Only for today, get a further 10% off almost everything online. With 10% off home and kitchen appliances, 10% off TVs, audio, cameras, laptops and tablets, 10% off sofas, dining furniture, beds, mattresses and homewares. That's right, a further 10% off almost everything online. Only at the Harvey Norman flash sale. Ends midnight tonight, so visit harveynorman.ie now and don't miss out.
Go!
Fire!
Oh, bad luck, Brian. You've landed in the bunker.
No, Pat. How am I ever going to get out of there?
I think you'll need to use a wedge.
What?
The sand wedge.
Is it lunchtime already, Pat?
How good is your hearing? At Specsavers Audiologists, rechargeable hearing aids are available at our lowest ever price. Book a free hearing check today.
Just 30 minutes from Dublin lies the K Club, Ireland's premier golf resort and the perfect location for your next golfing escape. Experience luxurious accommodation and play 2 Arnold Palmer-designed championship golf courses. Swing into action. And book your golf break today at kclub.ie.
Football Index is reinventing football betting. You can buy and sell the world's top players. Their value may go up and down, but it's not over with the final whistle like a regular bet. Football Index, reinventing football betting.
Start building your portfolio today at footballindex.co.uk or download the app now. New customers only, minimum deposit and conditions apply. Gamble responsibly.
How are you, football fans? This Sunday, you can stream Arsenal v Man United and Chelsea v Wolves. That's 2 unmissable fixtures for a one-off payment of just €10. To grab a Now TV Sky Sports Day Pass and only pay for the games that matter to you, search Now TV today. Content streamed via internet, full terms at nowtv.com.
It's time to trade up to a new Peugeot at Gowan Motors Navan Road. Right now, selected Peugeots come with Peugeot Advantage. That means Peugeot ads, flexible payment options, 5-year warranty, and up to €750 deposit contribution or up to €4,000 scrappage allowance. Available now at Gowan Motors Navan Road. Terms and conditions apply.
Want peace of mind with your next car purchase? Done Deal's new manufacturer-approved car ads give you warranties, roadside assist, and so much more. Find your next car with Ireland's largest selection of manufacturer-approved car ads. Done Deal. Discover and drive.
A moment's stroll from the doors of the Brehon, Killarney's lakes and mountains await. Here eagles soar, wild deer roam, and visitors and locals alike pause to catch their breath. Escape to the Brehon this spring from just €110 per room, including breakfast and relaxation time in the Angsana Spa. Book your break today at thebrehon.com.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back to the football show. So Chelsea 2-0 up against Dinamo Kiev at Stamford Bridge. The goals from Pedro and then a free kick from Willian. Far better result than what happened to Arsenal earlier, who were beaten 3-1 in France by Rennes. So they'll have it all to do in next week's second leg at the Emirates. Joined on the line by Philippe Auclair. Evening, Philippe.
Good evening to you.
We want to talk obviously about what happened last night at the Parc des Princes. But first, just that result for Rennes this evening. It seems like a hell of a shock when you look what Rennes have done in recent years in Europe, which is literally nothing in recent times. Where has this result come from?
It comes from the fact that Rennes have got a new young manager called Julien Stéphan, who is somebody who is taking this competition very seriously, has already done some remarkable things with this team, which was really, yes, you're quite right. It was a team that nobody cared really too much about, mid-table, no real ambition. This has changed with this young manager. They showed it in the previous round when they certainly, they shocked, the whole of Europe, I think, by winning at Real Betis when they had drawn, the first leg at home 3-0, and they won in Sevilla, which was really quite an extraordinary achievement. And they were really up for it, and I'm not too surprised. This is what I had bet on, I must say, a victory of Rennes over Arsenal. I don't necessarily think it means that Arsenal are out of the competition. They are a team which is very different at home, as you know. And also, when you look at Unai Emery's record in the Europa League, you'll see that most of the performances that he put together were actually based on strength at home in front of the Sevilla public. That is Sevilla, not Real Betis this time. So no, I'm not exactly surprised. They've got some very, very good players in that particular Rennes team, and also the fact Socrates was sent off really stupidly just before the equaliser certainly tilted the game in Rennes' way. So not a huge shock, I must say. Nothing compared to the cataclysm we had last night, certainly.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and one we'll come back to over the coming weeks with what's happening with Rennes, particularly if they do progress against Arsenal. So, last night and the fallout. Just how difficult a day has it been for Thomas Tuchel?
Pretty difficult. It's been pretty difficult all round. I have to say that the reaction to that elimination was quite staggering, really, in France, certainly among PSG supporters, and very revealing, I think, of the problems which are at the heart of this new disappointment, and disappointment is a euphemism. It seems there's a complete, incapacity almost to understand what happened, and an incapacity to take into account the performance of Manchester United, an incapacity to understand that, yes, of course, it is a defeat that was self-inflicted, but that there were reasons which went beyond PSG's own problems. And it's a very neurotic club with a neurotic management, neurotic players, and neurotic fans especially. And at the moment, what we're seeing is a neurosis played out in public. It's been absolutely staggering, I have to say. Over the last 24 hours, is that people are in complete denial, are trying to find explanation for things which have no explanation, are putting together all sorts of crazy arguments to say that PSG would have lost against a team playing in the 10th division. They're so weak, so frail, and so on. So it hasn't gone down too well, to say the least. It's been, and it's going to be, I think, a time for PSG to, so the people at the top, to reconsider perhaps some of their strategy, if not all of their strategy, rather than look at the manager and yet again making a scapegoat of Thomas Tuchel, as they did with Unai Emery, and to a lesser degree with Carlo Ancelotti and Laurent Blanc.
I was listening to you pre-match last night talking to Joe, and you were saying that maybe this wouldn't be as straightforward as everybody predicted, that some of the key players for Paris Saint-Germain, obviously some of them are injured, but somebody like Kylian Mbappe, despite his brilliant goal-scoring record this season, had shown some signs of a little dip, maybe a bit of sloppiness creeping into his game, and that bore fruit then watching the match last night. From an outsider's point of view, it simply looked to me that Paris Saint-Germain almost have had it too easy for too long and felt that they could get away with a sloppiness, that they'd always get another chance. And actually, in games at this level, sometimes you don't.
That's correct. The level of opposition they're getting every weekend in Liga is weak, not to say worse than that. And they're steamrolling their opponents at will, most of them, almost all of them. They don't have to get out of second or third gear. They're comfortable. They're not used to have teams against them which do believe in their chances. It happens maybe 2-3 times a season in the Championnat. So they're not ready to confront opposition at this kind of level. And you just have to look at the results, not just this year, or even the game against Barcelona. We all remember the remontada, the 6-1 at the Camp Nou. But it was also the case before against Chelsea. It's been the case against Barca on other occasions, against Real Madrid. Every time that there are asked tough questions, they don't have the answer. In Europe, that is. And the weakness of Liga is definitely something that is hampering. But I think that the weakness is primarily psychological and perhaps also in the makeup of that particular team. You would not... I mean, if you looked on the pitch yesterday, even though PSG is obviously technically by far the better team of the two, even if they dominated possession to a ridiculous extent, particularly in the first half, if you look at the players who really asserted their authority on the game, you wouldn't have many of them who would be from Paris Saint-Germain, would you? You could say Chris Smalling had a great game. You could say Scott McTominay had a pretty amazing game, I think. You could say Romelu Lukaku confirmed what we've been thinking about him for a very long time, and it's also his rich vein of form at the moment. Marcus Rashford confirmed that he had nerves of steel. On the other side, what could you say? Mbappe, that was a disaster. I don't know if the thought came to me when I was watching him that he was aware of the fact that he was not producing the goods and that he was almost enjoying, that's not the word, experiencing a kind of out-of-body experience where he was looking at himself thinking, you can't be that bad, can you? And the more he thought about it, the worse he became. And it was not a normal Kylian Mbappe that we know and who is one of the world's best players by any means.
Sorry, is this the first dip in form of Mbappe's career?
No, he's had moments when he's been... I mean, last year, for example, he also had little dips in form. This was different. This was a performance where he definitely was not... It's not a dip in form. He was a ghost of himself. He, the things that he would do in his sleep were not coming together. He tried a few tricks which he shouldn't have tried, but he was trying them. Well, maybe because he felt a bit overconfident and wanted to test himself. Say, well, I can still do that. And he's a far better player than what we saw last night. But he simply failed. And as I said, he was aware of the fact that he was failing, and the more he was aware of it, the more he was failing. And they went down the hole that way. All of his teammates and himself just disappeared and vanished into actually absolutely nothing in the end.
Philippe, when you say that the club, might look at a change of strategy, or that may be one of the, the fallout or reaction to this, what do you mean? Like, in what regard do you mean a change of strategy?
Recruitment, perhaps. I mean, certainly, when you compare, I think they've gone backwards in some ways. If you think of the PSG and Laurent Blanc, which was playing very, very good football, by the way, was extraordinarily unlucky, and that was pure bad luck to go out against Barcelona in the Champions League. They did have a much stronger policy, which was probably due to the fact that they had a sports director, Leonardo, the Brazilian, who was really hands-on and was defining the recruitment policy. These days, you don't get the feeling that there is anything like a long-term plan. It's all very bling, of course. They've spent an awful lot of money to bring in Neymar and Kylian Mbappe. They haven't necessarily looked at the balance of the team, and it's obvious, and perhaps not from the games against Manchester United, but it is obvious for everybody who's been following them in Liga or in other competitions that, for example, they're quite weak in terms of resources in midfield compared to other teams of the same caliber. Like, say, a Manchester City or a Liverpool or a Juve or a Barca or a Bayern or Atletico. They're behind that. There is not the sense that this group is balanced or has been put together by a sports director or a manager who had a clear idea of what was to be achieved in terms of the kind of play they wanted, the kind of game that they wanted to show, that they wanted to make their own, their signature. And that hasn't been the case. Also, there is a lack, there is a lack of leaders in that team. Technical leaders, plenty, no problem. But true leaders, like, for example, and I will take again the example of Chris Smalling, who is technically not the greatest of players, was a true leader of his team last night. And you don't see where this player could be. Maybe Marquinhos could be one of those, possibly. Marco Verratti, no, too inconsistent, never doesn't last 90 minutes, too undisciplined. And you look through the team and you're thinking, where are those leaders? They're not there. Which means that when you are in a situation of crisis, as was the case yesterday when they were 2-1 down, there was nobody really to take on the responsibility of not just geeing up his teammates, but making sure everybody was focused, concentrated, and was doing the task that had been given by Tuchel before the game. And all of that put together means that, yes, it's fine steamrolling lesser opposition, but as soon as things go against you and the opponent is better, you've got a big problem. You stall, you hit a glass ceiling, and you fall, and you wonder what you've fallen, and you hurt a lot.
Do you think Thomas Tuchel will be there next season?
I hope so. I don't think he's done anything which shows that he should be taking the exit door. In fact, PSG have shown signs of improving in some ways, tactically certainly. They're more certainly adaptable than they used to be. They tended to be a bit one-dimensional. I think it's shown. I mean, if you think about, for example, the first leg at Old Trafford, this is also Tuchel's work. He devised a tactical plan which worked perfectly, had prepared his team extremely well, and I don't think he can be held responsible, or he bears a part of responsibility, but he's not the person who was responsible for the complete fiasco of last night.
So on what might happen during the summer, because like you spoke about youth systems, maybe trying to grow things a bit more organically. When you look at clubs that are owned by billionaires, that tends not to happen when you have a defeat like this. That what you do is you go out and you spend another 100 million on another player, and maybe 2 or 3 of those types of players during the summer. As the decisions are made for next season and whether Neymar stays and who potentially comes in, who's making those decisions? If Tuchel stays, will he have a major involvement in that? Like, who are the power players in terms of the footballing side of things?
Very good question. The power is in Doha, is in Qatar. The chairman, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, is very much somebody who executes orders, does what he's told. The sports director, Antero Enrique, is somebody whose position is extremely weak. So I would say that recruitment of a proper sports director probably should be essential. They won't have that huge amount of money to spend in the summer market because remember that they've had their problems with FFP. I'm not saying they're in the same position as Manchester City are finding themselves today, but they have had their problems and might have more problems yet with UEFA. They cannot afford, after buying Neymar and buying Mbappe for such huge sums of money, to carry on, spending hundreds of millions like this. But there are. For example, they will need to look at the situation of Thiago Silva, for example, who is the captain of this PSG team, who's been in the club for a very long time. In a way, is symptomatic and symbolic of what the club is, as it, can be quite spectacular at times and lovely to watch and so on, but is lacking perhaps the qualities you would expect from a captain. He's certainly no Vincent Kompany. That's the way I would put it.
Philippe, we've been obviously watching the headlines or reading the back pages, the front pages of the news pages in France. What's the reaction been in terms of the wider French football and community, the teams, the clubs that are getting bashed by PSG on a regular basis? Did they enjoy last night greatly, or what? How did that play out?
They're very discreet about it. But I would imagine there's quite a lot of schadenfreude going on in France at the moment. Not everybody's too happy about PSG. I would imagine, for example, that Jean-Michel Aulas, the chairman of Olympique Lyonnais, who is the bête noire of PSG, I'm talking about Jean-Michel Aulas, that is, who never misses an occasion to say what he wants to say about the club owned by the Qataris. There's a lot of schadenfreude, but at the moment, I think all the attention is grabbed by the people looking into an abyss and wondering around, uncomprehending, wondering why the sun suddenly has been eclipsed. Why can't we see anything? Why do we feel so weird? As I said, it's really seeing a neurosis which is played out in public. And for the time being, people outside of Paris do not really have space to express themselves. I think they're in the background, if I dare say, enjoying the spectacle.
Yeah. Philippe, great stuff as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Callum Hudson-Odoi has given Chelsea a 3-0 lead against Dynamo Kiev. They're in injury time in that.
Off the ball on News Talk.
A dog like me isn't easily impressed, but your man doesn't seem to be doing too bad with the business. Not that I tell him. Even saved a few quid by insuring the van with the AA, so I can continue to sit up here, riding shotgun, lord of all I see. I tell you, if I two tails, I'd wag them.
Did you know that the AA does van insurance too? Go to the AA.ie and get €75 off today. Who's got clever van insurance? Acceptance criteria, terms and conditions apply. Minimum premium of $339.
communities. So, look out for it. GuaranteedIrish.ie. Altogether better.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Welcome back. So it's gone full time at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea 3-0 winners against Dinamo Kiev in the first leg of the Europa League last 16 ties, so they're pretty much in the quarterfinals. Pedro, Willian and Callum Hudson-Odoi with the goals. We're going to be live at Stamford Bridge on Sunday's show for the game against Wolves. Ian Beach and Kenny Cunningham will be at that one, and then it's Arsenal against Manchester United, which is a big old game.
Are you down for that one?
I'm not.
No.
I'm skipping the football this week.
Not going to get trapped in England like you did last weekend.
Certain nightmare scenario for everybody involved. Nightmare scenario.
What happened exactly?
Flight cancelled.
What did you do?
Had to go for a couple of drinks in Kev's local.
No.
It's tough going.
It's like the Bermuda Triangle, that place.
It literally is.
Go in and they disappear.
Generally Kev.
Well, yeah.
Generally.
He returns though.
After that, I'm going to Cheltenham.
Oh, of course.
Sunday, we're doing a big show.
Yes.
With horse racing people.
Oh, it's going to be
a big festival on of racing next week.
Big crowd going for that one, I believe.
Apparently so. All the English will be in.
They'll be loving
So
that.
it's been teed up as a Ireland against England type thing, but I'd say it's going to be 90% English people. So I'm a bit worried about my sense of humour and the English audience.
Just give them what they want.
What do they want, Dan?
I don't know. Stereotypes
that's
reinforced.
what I'm asking.
Give them stereotypes reinforced.
Okay, so I need to do a bit of paddywhackery.
It's just like,
thing.
Something
about the famine
who's up for drinking
potatoes.
some Guinness this week?
Hey!
Yeah. Oh, will we all be going to the Guinness tent this week, lads? These are the Cheltenham staples.
What about Brexit jokes? Like, is it a Tory audience I'm going up against here?
I don't know. The racing crowd, potentially. I'm not sure if they're it's not like an audience of American.
It's hard to
golfers.
get a good Brexit joke, anyways. It has to be said.
Yeah, it's not like a bunch of American golf fans. That's where the Trump stuff wouldn't go down well.
Right.
So the racing fraternity, I'd say, could be more eclectic.
Okay. So I'll just be myself, I guess.
Just be yourself. Oh, well.
not too much.
Be a good version of yourself.
Okay, I'll try my best. You're going to be back on Saturday afternoon.
I am.
Johnny Ward will be here as well, which...
Eclectic.
It'll be eclectic.
We'll talk about everything and nothing at the
We'll
same
see if
time.
we can convince Johnny to put Seamus Coleman in his potential Ireland 11. Non-committal again today, Mick McCarthy, on the captaincy.
Yeah, I think he said last week he was going to be his captain, though. Well, I mean, who knows? That could be the big story waiting in the background, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I'd be surprised as well. OTBAM back in the morning from 7:45 on all our social channels. It's International Women's Day tomorrow, so we've got a special day of programming across Off the Ball, starting from 7:45 in the morning, and then on tomorrow night's show as well, when we will be looking ahead to all things Cheltenham on Friday Night Racing. Nina Carberry is going to be alongside Cliona Foley in studio. The Crappy Quiz is back tomorrow night as well. Much more besides. Dan, thanks to you. Thanks to all our production staff. All our best up on offtheball.com. Tom Dunn is up next. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Good luck.